Hello, welcome to the Wellness Lab podcast, where we are sharing with the community great insights about wellness, overall health, and other things, including mindset, leadership, coaching, and whatnot. And today we have the pleasure of having Tiffany Olson today with us, who is an example of leadership in women. Of course, she has been CEO, president. She has led teams, 4,000 plus people, managed revenues exceeding $1 billion. So, great pleasure having you here today. You've worked within Fortune 100 companies. So excited to have you here today to share with us some lessons, things that you've been working on, all the professional career you have, and well, all those insights that I'm pretty sure our audience is eager to learn of how you can build legacy through kindness, authenticity, work life balance. So, over to you, Tiffany. Please feel free to give us an intro of your background, how you have evolved through time, and then we'll dive into our conversation. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Lilia. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to be here with your listeners. And, ever since I was a little girl, I knew that I wanted to run a business. When my girlfriends would come over, they'd always want to play Barbies, but I wanted to play store. I was making a profit at 5 years old. And that's when I knew that not only did I want to run a business, but I went to college, went into business school. And when I graduated, I had this opportunity in healthcare, and it was with a pharmaceutical company selling pharmaceuticals. And I fell in love with this intersection between business and science with the patient in the middle. And I've stayed in there my entire career, specifically on the supplier side. So you mentioned I've worked for Roche Diagnostics. I ran the nuclear pharmaceutical business for Cardinal Health. And I'm recently retired from full-time work, but I do board work, I do speaking, and I recently released a book on leadership called Real Leader, Real Legacy.
Thank you, Tiffany. Congratulations on your book. We're sharing below the link to your book, to your LinkedIn profile, to your website. So, anyone interested in connecting with you, learning more, and buying your book for sure, we're sharing all the information. I know it's available through Amazon, which is really easy, straightforward to get it. So, now that you have mentioned how you started the connection on this portion of pharmaceutical health, it may be also related to wellness and, well, the place of how you have woven into this leadership portion legacy, which will be something that throughout lifetime it's something that will be valuable and will make us feel fulfilled. So it's great to talk about this topic today. And then on your book, I know you're talking about leadership, about how this might be the start of a decision and how it will build a legacy. So if you can give us like just a bit of an overview or a quick tidbits on what your book is all about and engage everyone on getting it and reading more about it.
Well, great. Thank you. One of the things that I say in my book is that your legacy starts with your next decision, no matter where you are in your career. And it's really about not needing a title to lead, but really kind of leading from where you are, because leadership is about the impact, the connections that you make, the laughter, the stories, the tears. It's about lighting the way so that really others can follow. Um, and when I said it starts with your next decision, that's the decision of how you can make a positive impact on others, whether that be at work, at home, in a nonprofit, whatever that looks like for you. That is where your legacy starts.
Amazing, thank you. And I love that how you have made the connection. I find legacy can be found in various ways. Sometimes we just think about success and like having something great or money financially wise, but there's lots of things that we can decide, as you say, like a decision you're making is building this legacy you're building for others. And it's really interesting the approach and a great way to open our minds and be conscious about what steps, what decisions we're making, because that's something we're building as a foundation of what's going to be led for others. It can be maybe our inner circle, or it can reach to a broader audience or a reach of others. So thank you, thanks for letting us know. And then obviously we've discussed like the podcast. We're focused a lot on health, wellness, and in your book you're mentioning about kindness and how that can keep you healthy. So please let us know what you mean. What do you mean about this? How we can exemplify it or incorporate it into our health.
Thrilled to do that. And Lilia, this all really kind of started when I was in the second grade. So my mom was a single mom back in the 60s. And what that meant was that I had to get myself up, dressed, fed, and off to the school bus on time. So one day I was running late. I got dressed. I ran downstairs. I was making my breakfast. I put some toast in and I thought, I need to get out of the house quickly. So I turned that toaster on super high. And of course, that was not a good thing to do because the house filled with smoke. I ended up reeking of toast, unplugged it, got that taken care of, got on the bus. But when I walked into the classroom, of course, the kids were laughing and making fun of me because I reeked, and my teacher, Mrs. Schneider, just opened her arms, gave me a big hug, and spritzed perfume on me. So it was just this really memorable moment, something that I still remember because it was such an act of kindness. And that's kind of what led me to start to research on how kindness and leadership interact and how being able to have that at work can keep you healthy. So one of the studies that I read, it was from the group called Random Acts of Kindness Foundation. And what they discovered is that when you are doing kind things, your body actually releases a hormone called oxytocin, and it reduces stress, it lowers cholesterol, which of course is linked to stress, and it starts to give you that feeling of calm, of trust, even empathy. And so this study not only showed if you're doing that act of kindness, but if you witness others, that it can still trigger these positive effects. So, in relating that to leadership, by showing kindness and appreciation, you not only benefit your own health and well being, but you really contribute to building that collaborative and positive team culture because that whole person comes to work, not just their work self, but their entire self. So showing this compassion and support that it's really essential because it helps people to bring their best productive self to work. And so I've always thought that being empathetic isn't a weakness, it's just being human.
Amazing. I love it. And I do find that's really important for me, something that I have praised and practiced throughout my lifetime. And as I've gone into my adulthood, I think that has been instilled even more because I have kids now. And I always tell them, like, be kind is always possible because sometimes we are working, going through the motions, and it's stressful at times, I know, but we have to make sure we are putting ourselves in the shoes of others. We never know what's happening, as you say, on the personal side of things. If we go to like from a professional workplace perspective, it's hard sometimes to dive into this individual portion, but we know if we're showing kindness and we are as leaders able to tell others by our acts, by our words on how we care, not only because they come and deliver on KPIs and metrics, but just because we have this human side. So I really appreciate you helping with anyone that is going through a leadership position. You have a lot of impact and influence in others. So really interesting to see how you have come into this realization and helping others understand at this level. How is it so important, given that you have had a great experience as well at leadership um, positions? So that's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also talking about other things that will be relatable to, being authentic can make you vulnerable, especially at work. We know that. But um, was there a time when you weren't?
Yeah, it's funny because you always like to think that you are 100% authentic all the time, and I certainly try to be. But there was a time I was CEO of Roche Diagnostics Corporation, and I had just recently gotten this position. And we were having a meeting in Indianapolis at the Indy 500 racetrack. And we had this meeting room. We were launching this new product, and it was just going to be this incredible celebration. And at the time, I had a speech writer, and they wrote me this absolutely beautiful, funny, smart speech, and it incorporated why we were at the track and why racing was so important. And I know nothing about car racing. So, about halfway through, I kind of started to stumble. I started to get nervous. I mispronounced one of the drivers' names that was a very famous race car driver. And when the speaker feels stressed and uneasy, the audience becomes, stressed. And I would say that it was a real train wreck. But what I learned is that it was a car wreck. But anyways, what I did is I just paused and I admitted that I knew nothing about racing and just said, I'm not going to use this speech, and went to the messages that I wanted to make sure that people heard. And, you know, it was not perfect, but it was authentic. And it really connected me to a lot of the people because I became much more approachable to them. And what I learned is that before I was really trying to be perfect, and instead of just trying to get that message across. So I learned that perfect truly is the enemy of authenticity. And I've just really tried to make sure that I come through with my voice.
Amazing. And that part is really interesting. Being vulnerable is what makes us human beings, and anyone. Sometimes showing the vulnerable side of things, if you're at a leadership position and you might be like an authority for others, might feel really nerve wracking, but it's part of what makes us also become approachable to others and let others know, like, okay, they are humans, they feel they have certain areas of opportunities, and that helps also create connection with others and uh, know that we don't have all the answers, but there's probably that thing that gets you going, that makes you create change or do things or lead others to make changes and be successful. So I think that's part of a great leader, knowing that you're vulnerable, you can approach things, and sometimes if you don't have the answer, it's okay. And then how you manage things and how you get the answer and how you provide solutions, it's what matters. The problem solving portion, it's a really good skill set to have.
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks, Tiffany. And then I know a topic that has been relevant, especially in the last couple of years, I find since COVID, is mental health, specifically like through the workplace. So, what is your position on that? How do you feel the importance of mental health in the workplace is, and how it needs to be addressed?
Yeah, so I absolutely agree that mental health is very important and that whole mental health awareness. I think that the world really saw it when COVID happened because all of a sudden we were in people's homes, having meetings, seeing what their life was like. And it's so very, very important to make sure that you're minding your mental health. I think for me, uh, as a leader, the being able to be yourself at work and authentic really leads to good mental health because Oscar Wilde said, be yourself because everyone else is already taken. But I really think that what it means is that we all bring our unique attributes and our values. And if we are in sync with those values at work, then that's just less stress. So I'll give you an example. If one of your values is you really value independence or empowerment, but you're at a job where you're micromanaged or it is very specific steps that you have to take every day, that can be very, very stressful place for that person to be. Or it may be if you really, really value like team fairness, but it's something that you're not finding in your workplace, and that causes a lot of stress. And I think that those are areas where You have to try to see if you can address them at the workplace, get them changed, change your position. But having that conflict really can help to, I think, diminish healthy feelings.
Thank you. That is really important. And as you mentioned, values really have a lot to do on the alignment on how you fit in a culture of a workplace, because I think maybe at some point in time it's like, as long as I have the skills, as long as I meet the goals, everything will be fine, or the other way from a company standpoint. But no, values are really important, and with time we've seen values have taken a really important role for anyone working, and it's sometimes one of the things we are taking now into consideration where when thinking about get taking a job or a specific position, that can be the main differentiator. So I really think we all need to push into what the values are, and if you are a leader somewhere in an organization, you really have to follow through and stay true to the values. And
Absolutely
that
agree.
and that brings, thank you, Tiffany, us like that piece as well on how being unique, being authentic is important. How is there any balance you find needs to be between being authentic and then staying true to that when things start getting difficult, when there are waves that change things? It can be external factors, politics, you name it. So how can you be authentic and still find this leverage throughout your work?
Yeah, I would say that I think one thing that is very important is for people to really understand what makes them unique. And a lot of people sometimes struggle with that because sometimes it's hard to see how other people see you. So I always say, get some friends or family that you trust and ask them, two simple questions. Maybe they aren't so simple, but what are the first three words that come to mind when you think of me? And why do you enjoy working for me? And then I think you just have to try to listen for what those common threads are. So it could be, hey, you're reliable, you're a good listener, you're fun, you're dependable. And I think you have to kind of look at that as your hashtag, hashtag good listener, because then those are the things that you can take to your advantage and really show them through your actions because they play on your personal strengths. You can always go back to that because it is your strength. And I think that that is one of the key things when you just really kind of talk about being unique and being authentic at work.
I love that. I had never seen it that way, and it makes total sense. I remember when growing up, I did like this game, like how do I see myself as an animal? Let's say how others saw me, and then relationing, like seeing, okay, these are the traits of the animals, and sometimes you don't see certain things. That others do, and then you come to realize, okay, now you reflect and you think like, it's true, I am always, let's say, resilient, or I'm always brave. So it's great to take that approach, ask others, and sometimes like reflect, maybe I have been showing on this way, I am really strong on this specific skill set of or soft skill, and really taking that as the way to push yourself, because sometimes you need that to be within your thoughts, your mind, because at times it might be hard to find you can be that specific authentic person and unique, but you can stay true to that because it's what makes you special or different from others.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
That's amazing, Tiffany. And well, before we run out of time, I think it's really important to talk about work-life balance. I know you have lots of experience. You can give us great advice, and many of the listeners here might have a family with young kids, pets, or whatever. So I know there's many competing priorities these days, but we can find work-life balance, and then how we can achieve it. If there's any specific advice or experience that you can share with us.
Well, great. Well, thank you. I kind of look at this at the end, it's all about life. I was I've worked many years. I was a working mom. I had kids. I had a husband, pets, you name it. And it's really, I think, tough to try to get that balance, especially when your life gets busy, but when we're so digitally connected. You get a ping every time somebody leaves you an email or a text. You always feel like you have to answer it. So you don't always feel that you're present when you should be. But I had three things that I did that really helped me with the balance. And I'll share those with you. So the first one was that I set limits for my time. And when my children were young, for me, it was that dinner time with my family. And I would do everything to avoid doing business dinners, but I did a lot of lunches. I kind of became the lunch lady and would always try to go out and have lunch with people or talk with people or, whatever you would normally maybe try to do over dinner, because that was just my sacred time with my family and my kids. I think the other thing that I did was get a support system. So former Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg actually credits most of her success to her support system. Now, she built that with her husband, but people can build that with friends or with family. I joined and had a lot of friends where we did a lot of carpools and things like that when my children were young. But I also joined a professional group, and it was a small forum where there were 8 of us from non-competing industries, and we met once a month simply to support each other on challenges that we were all having. And they were all kind of different challenges, but yet there was a lot of things that were similar. And so that was absolutely invaluable. And I did that for years. They're still some of my dearest, closest friends. And I would say the last tip of advice is to ask for help when you need it. We all want to lift others, but sometimes others need to help lift you. I have a girlfriend of mine who started a women's group locally here, about 50 women, and we would meet monthly. And, usually about 10, 12, 15 people would gather. And at one meeting, the conversation turned to the guilt that a lot of us struggle with. And that's between that family and professional obligations. And one mom said, "You want to know what? I'm a better mother because I have a career. I prioritize, I manage my time, my kids see my values in action." And her perspective shifted the whole narrative that we were having, because it was really that reminder to celebrate what we contribute rather than what we're missing. And I just put that out there in the universe for people to think of that are kind of struggling with this and kind of feel guilty when they have to do a text when it's kind of family time and vice versa.
Thank you. That's great advice and totally on point when you say if you need help, like there's nothing wrong on asking for it, and it's better to do it. Having this network of support, it's great. You mentioned like we see nowadays when you're joining maybe more for entrepreneurs, a group for coaching or something specific, there's always this peer group. It can be virtual, it can be like in person, but having this group of others that will relate to you, it might be of pets. If you're training your pet, there may be this inner circle of someone that has gone through the same thing or is going through the same thing. You might be more relatable, you might be more open because you're facing these challenges and you can help each other. So that's great, Tiffany. Thank you. And just before we wrap it up, I know it's close to that time. If there's any final thoughts, piece of advice, I know sometimes I ask like, what's the best advice you've ever gotten? Not sure if that has been covered, but if not, feel free to enlighten us.
Yeah. Well, I would say kind of final thoughts, especially because we're talking so much about wellness. It's put your own mask on before assisting others. I think that's one of the best lines because it's a reminder that you have to take care of yourself or you can't take care of others. So schedule downtime, get out in nature, just take care of yourself. That would kind of be my final thoughts to your audience.
Thank you, Tiffany. Times two. I agree 100%. I've done it. And for me, I have my sacred time. I do it early in the morning, like the 5 a.m. club applies to me because I know that will not be taken away. And then if I'm good, everyone else around me will be good. So thanks, Tiffany. A really
Thank you.
interesting and inspiring conversation today. And happy to stay in touch with you and
Right.
follow you, read more, and get all your advice. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too, Lilia.
Thanks.